Hello everyone, my name is Alexander Mckinney, and today I will be exploring the Suez Crisis of 1956 and its lasting global impact. This presentation draws on 6 key sources: President Dwight D. Eisenhower's 1956 address, General Charles Knightley's after-action report, and United Nations Security Council Resolution 118. The 3 scholarly analyses by Lave, Moller, and Panel will also be present. This event marked one of the most dramatic turning points of the post-war era, a moment where empires dwindled, the Cold War deepened, and the modern international system took shape. In October of 1956, Egypt's President Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal, the key maritime link between Europe and Asia. The canal had been operated by British and French interests for nearly a century, and his move ignited an invasion by Israel, Britain, and France, setting off a global crisis that revealed the limits of the old imperial power while growing American influence. My research focused primarily on one guiding question: how did the Suez Crisis redefine the limits of power, legality, and legitimacy in international politics? After World War II, Egypt had technically gained independence, yet Britain and France still controlled much of its economy through the Suez Canal Company. Nasser saw this as the last remnant of colonial domination in Egypt. As Moller explains, his nationalization aimed to redirect canal revenue towards Egypt's development, especially the Aswan High Dam project, which the US and Britain had withdrawn funding from previously. This made the canal both a symbol of economic sovereignty and political necessity for modernization. Legally, Lave shows that Nasser cited the 1888 Constantinople Convention, which guaranteed free navigation regardless of ownership. By offering compensation and maintaining open access, Egypt argued its actions were fully legal, an argument that the United Nations later would uphold in Resolution 118, affirming Egypt's sovereignty and the canal's neutrality. The crisis erupted into war in late October 1956. Israel invaded Egypt's Sinai Peninsula, advancing towards the canal. Within 24 hours, Britain and France issued a so-called peace ultimatum: withdraw or face intervention. When Egypt refused, they bombed Egyptian airfields and dropped paratroopers near Port Said. As Eisenhower recounted in his television address, these actions could scarcely be reconciled with the principles and purpose of the United Nations. However, as Lahav uncovered, this was no spontaneous peacekeeping mission. In secret meetings in Suez, the 3 nations had coordinated the attack. Israel would strike first, giving Britain and France pretext to occupy the canal under the guise of restoring order. This conspiracy, now known as the Suez Protocol, transformed the invasion into what Lahav calls a facade of legality masking a premeditated war. The illusion collapsed quickly under international scrutiny. Within days, global outrage mounted. The United States, the Soviet Union, and most of the United Nations had condemned the invasion. Eisenhower refused to support his closest allies, saying there can be no peace without law. The United Nations Security Council moved to stop hostilities and passed Resolution 118, which called for the withdrawal and respect of Egyptian sovereignty. According to Lahav, the invasion violated the UN Charter ban on force except in self-defense settings, a new global standard for collective security. Knightley later admitted that world opinion had become an absolute principle of war. The crisis marked the first major deployment of United Nations Emergency Force, a peacekeeping mission made up of soldiers from neutral countries, including India and Canada, to supervise the ceasefire. In short, the Blue Helmets were born. The invasion lasted only a week, but its consequences reshaped global politics. Britain and France faced humiliation and rapid decline as world powers. Lahav writes that the crisis shattered the illusion of great power autonomy, while Panel noted that it pushed both nations to rely more heavily on the United States and eventually the European community. Meanwhile, Egypt and Nasser emerged as symbols of anti-colonial defiance. Moller explains that the crisis turned Nasser into a hero across the Arab and African worlds, inspiring independence movements from Algeria to Ghana. One surprising detail is that the Suez Crisis indirectly strengthened the UN. The creation of a neutral peacekeeping force became a lasting model for later conflict intervention, all the way from Cyprus to the Balkans. In the long run, the Suez Canal redefined global power operations. Eisenhower's rejection of military collusion marked an end of European imperial intervention and the rise of the United States as the central arbiter of Western foreign policy. As Le Havre puts it, it redefined the limits of lawful force, showing that military strength without legitimacy was doomed to fail. Pennell connects these lessons to later U.S. interventions, from Vietnam to Iraq, where questions of legality and global opinion bring a familiarity to those who know about the Suez Crisis. The broader takeaway: moral authority, not just military power, determines who truly leads in the international world. To this day, the Suez Crisis proved that strength of nations lie not only in its armies, but its ability to act with legitimacy and restraint on the world stage.